Well, it looks like the New York Giants are about to put the cut in Tommy Cutlets. Am I right? Am I right? Yeah, that's why I didn't quit my day job. Welcome everybody to JG9 News, where we talk all things NFL all the time. I'm Joe and I representing the 904 from the 602, and today we are talking about this team behind me right here, the New York Football Giants, and what they're going to do at the quarterback position. And it seems like we have a very clear understanding of what they're going to do, at least with one guy on the roster. We don't know about Daniel Jones. We obviously know they signed Drew Lock in free agency. We don't know when they're going to draft a quarterback, if they're going to draft a quarterback, but we do have a pretty good idea that Tommy Cutlets, Tommy DeVito, last year's rookie sensation at some points during the season, is probably not going to be on the roster, and it looks like the Giants are going to part ways with Tommy DeVito, and he will not be a New York Giant when the 2024 season commences in September. This according to a recent report from Ralph Vacchiano, an NFC East reporter for Fox Sports, over 85,000 followers on Twitter. I've been following him for a very long time. He's super reliable, super good. And he spoke about the Tommy DeVito situation, and he said on it, "It's a good thing Tommy Cutlets took full advantage of his 15 minutes of fame, because he doesn't seem to be a big part of the Giants' future plans. He'll stick around all summer and might even get offered a place on the practice squad during the season. But Daniel Jones and Drew Lock seem secure as the 1-2 in the Giants' QB room, with Daniel Jones' health the only caveat. And if the Giants draft a quarterback, that player would be the number 3. So if Jones really is healthy enough to be the opening day starter, DeVito might be better off somewhere else." This really shouldn't come as a surprise to a lot of people that have been following the situation closely, but it is news. Tommy DeVito likely not going to be a New York Giant, and the Giants are going to be parting ways with him by the end of the 2024 preseason, barring anything crazy. Now, last season, Tommy DeVito, 64% completion percentage, 1,101 yards, 8 touchdowns, 3 picks. He was brought in when Daniel Jones got injured and Tyrod Taylor got injured. And obviously, DeVito had his moments. There's a reason that he was one of the most talked about players in football for a fair amount of time outside of the mean potential that he had. He had his moments. That 3-touchdown game and a 31-19 win over the Washington Commanders, where he had a 137.7 passer rating. He was on point in that game. Granted, it was the Commanders' defense, and Ron Rivera had no idea what he was doing there, but still, it was a good game. The Monday Night Football game against the Green Bay Packers. Remember that one during that incredible doubleheader? You had Giants, Packers, and Dolphins, Titans on the same night. You had 2 very good fourth-quarter comebacks there. Monday Night Football game, he completed 81% of his passes, led the Giants on that game-winning drive with no time left as they won on a walk-off field goal. But he did fizzle out by the end. 7 sacks against the Saints. He had the Eagles game on Christmas where he got benched after throwing for 55 yards in the first 3 quarters. He never really threw the ball deep. His deep ball was actually pretty poor, one of the worst in the NFL last season. Pocket presence was also bad. Now, granted, the Giants' offensive line was abysmal. No one's denying that. But he did take 37 sacks last season, which is absurd when he realized that he threw 178 passes. He took the 9th most sacks in football despite starting very few games. He was sacked on 17.2% of his dropbacks. I want to give you some perspective on how bad that is, and how bad Tommy DeVito played in that regard last season. 64 quarterbacks threw at least 25 passes last season. So 64 QBs, that's 2 per team on average. DeVito had the worst sack percentage by far. You can see it on the chart. That red bar is Tommy DeVito. He's towering above just about every other quarterback. Only 12 quarterbacks that season were even above 10%. The average was roughly 6%. The only other QB above 12.5%, oddly enough, was Daniel Jones. But Tommy DeVito towers over him, towers over everyone else. In fact, Tommy DeVito is the first quarterback to attempt at least 150 passes and get sacked over 17% of the time, so more than 1 out of every 6 dropbacks, since Randall Cunningham in 1986. It had been over 35 years since the last time a QB got sacked as frequently as Tommy DeVito. The other QBs to do so, for the record, Archie Manning in 1971, Bob Berry in 1968, and then Ron Smith with the Pittsburgh Steelers in 1966. Tommy DeVito is severely limited as a QB. Yes, he can be fun at times, but his arm strength isn't the best, deep ball is not the best, pocket presence isn't the best. It doesn't look like he has what it takes to be a long-term quarterback in the NFL, and it looks like the Giants are going to part ways and are not going to have him on the roster in 2023, according to that report by Ralph Vacchiano. Now, on top of that, again, you got Daniel Jones, you got Drew Lock. You're drafting a QB in the first 2 days in all likelihood. All signs seem to trend that way. J.J. McCarthy, potentially a pick number 6, seems to be the pick if the Giants stand pat and if the Giants are able to get McCarthy. There is the possibility, obviously, that the Minnesota Vikings could trade up to pick number 4 or pick number 5, in all likelihood pick number 4, and make a move there. They just got a first-round pick from the Houston Texans. You're not getting that pick if you're not planning on making a move, and they do need a quarterback badly because they are high on McCarthy, and Sam Darnold is their current quarterback. That quarterback, if he goes number 6 overall or goes on the first 2 days, overtakes DeVito, and that means DeVito is the number 4 option. And obviously, you're not keeping 4 quarterbacks on the active roster. No team keeps 4 quarterbacks on the 53-man roster. Very few teams keep 3. And the New York Giants don't like keeping 3 quarterbacks on the 53 as it is. He didn't make the 53-man roster last year to start the season off. They kept 2 quarterbacks at the onset, with Daniel Jones as the 1, Tyrod Taylor as the 2. DeVito was on the practice squad. On top of that, 2022, Brian Dable also kept 2 quarterbacks on the 53 to start off, with Daniel Jones and Tyrod Taylor. Now, granted, it's a small sample size. It's only 2, but Dable and company, based on history, only keep 2. Now, I'm not saying they're going to stick with history if they draft a guy early. That would be absolutely crazy. If they draft a guy in the first 3 days, I'm not saying, well, based on the sample size of 2, they're only keeping 2 quarterbacks, so one of Daniel Jones, Drew Lock, or this rookie that they draft in the first 3 days is going to get cut. That's absurd. But what I am saying is that there's basically no chance to keep Tommy DeVito, and this report by Ralph Vacchiano basically confirmed that. Now, having said that, DeVito could still wind up in the practice squad, as he pointed out. No one's poaching DeVito if and when the Giants cut him, and again, it seems like a 99.99% chance that DeVito will not be on the Giants roster on the 53 entering week 1 this season. He's not getting poached. Not a single quarterback got poached last season in the initial cuts. There were 24 waiver claims put in last season after the final preseason game. 0 quarterbacks got taken. 0 quarterbacks got taken from other teams, despite guys like Bailey Zappi being available. Nathan Rourke, I thought for sure Nathan Rourke was going to get claimed by someone after how good he was in the CFL and how well he played in the preseason for Jacksonville. They were all available, never got claimed. Never got claimed after the initial preseason cuts. Tommy DeVito probably going to make it on the Giants practice squad, barring anything crazy. No one's going to poach him, but in terms of 53-man roster, yeah, if you have a Tommy DeVito jersey, you might want to find a different jersey if you want to wear a guy that's going to be on the team, because it's very unlikely that Tommy DeVito will be on the 53-man roster if this report is anything to go off of. If the Giants' off-season plans are anything to go off of, it would take something crazy like injuries happening for Tommy DeVito to be a New York Giant, a proper New York Giant, in 2024. The end of the Tommy Cutlets era. It was short-lived. We had fun, but it seems like with this team behind me right here, the New York Giants, they're moving in a completely different direction, to the shock of not a ton of people. But what are your thoughts on Tommy DeVito? Do you think he will be a Giant in 2024? Do you think he'll be on the practice squad, the 53? Do you think he'll be on another team? Do you think Tommy DeVito can still play in the NFL? What are your thoughts on Tommy Cutlets in general? Let me know in the comments down below. That's going to do it for this episode of GG9 News. Be sure you like and subscribe. It helps the channel out a lot. And be sure to check out my main channel, JaguarGator9, where we talk all things NFL history all the time. Until next time, this is JaguarGator9 signing off. And as always, go Jags.